Today we're going to begin the 13 chapters of the Chandi, or the Durga Sapsati, 700 oblations to the Divine Mother. And it's all in a story theme of a king and a businessman coming to a rishi and finding out about the Divine Mother and how they can still their minds of all the thoughts that are causing them such pain and such distraction from where they want to be, which is with the Divine Mother. We'll begin with a meditation. Bearing in her 10 hands a sword of worship, the discus of revolving time, the club of articulation, the bow of determination, the iron bar of restraint, the pike of attention, the sling, the head of egotism, and the conch of vibrations. She has 3 eyes and displays ornaments on all her limbs. Shining like a blue gem, she has 10 faces. I worship that great remover of darkness, Mother Kali, whom the lotus-born creative capacity praised in order to slay too much and too little when the supreme consciousness was in sleep. We bow to she who tears apart thought. In times of old, in the period ruled by he who himself is radiant, there was a king named the conveyor of good thoughts, born of the lineage of those who dwell in consciousness, and he had authority over all the regions of the earth. He protected his subjects in the way of truth as a father to his children. At that time, the kings, who were the destroyers of worship, became his enemies. Good thoughts moved against the destroyers of worship to engage in battle. And even though they were fewer in numbers, nevertheless, good thoughts was defeated. Then he returned to his own city, renouncing his authority over the earth, and continued to rule in his own land. But there too the powerful enemies pursued that illustrious one and again attacked him. The king of good thoughts' strength was severely depleted. His enemies were mighty, and his unscrupulous ministers took over the army and the treasury. The king of good thoughts' sovereignty was lost, and therefore, riding alone upon his horse, he fled into the dense forest on the pretext of hunting. There he came upon the hermitage of a great wise master, a Muni called the intellect of love, where he saw so many dangerous animals living together in the greatest of peace. Many disciples to the great wise one were enhancing the magnificence of the forest. The Muni, the great wise one, made the king feel welcome there with respect, and the king wandered about the hermitage for some time. Then his contemplations were overcome with egotism and attachment, and he thought, the city that my ancestors protected in former time has now gone from me. Are my unprincipled employees protecting and righteously preserving the kingdom in my absence? Those who followed me with the eternal way of making offerings to the Homa with offering food and money, definitely now may be serving other kings who are spending without restraint in continual extravagance. And as the king went into deeper contemplation of the loss of his wealth and his present situation, his mind became absorbed in pain and his thoughts controlled by worldly attachments. There in the hermitage of the great teacher, he saw a businessman, and after greeting him asked, "Who are you, and what is the reason for your coming here? Why do you appear to be in such great sorrow, as though your mind were far from its goal?" asked the king in a pleasant voice and friendly spirit. And with words full of modesty and humble respect, the businessman replied to the king, The businessman said, "Pure intuitive perception is my name, Samadhi, and I am a businessman born in the lineage of those who worship infinite energy. My wife and children have cast me out because of their greed for wealth and have caused me to become an ascetic seeker of truth. I have been deprived of wealth, and my wife and sons have seized my whole estate. And having been cast out by my trusted kinsmen and bound by sorrow, I have come into the forest, but now I don't know if happiness is with my children. Staying here, I am unaware of the activities of my family. Do they experience tranquility at present, or does discomfort reign? Are my sons observing good conduct, or are they behaving with evil and wickedness?" The king said to the businessman, "You have been cast out by your wife and children because of their avarice and greed. Why are your thoughts so bound in love for them?" The businessman said, "Just as you were speaking to me, I was having that same thought. They have sacrificed a father's love, but what can I do? My mind does not entertain severity. I have affection for a master and a kinsman in their greed for wealth, yet my mind joins them all in affection. Though knowing all this, O great learned one, I fail to understand how. My contemplations are disposed to love even characterless relations. Because of their actions, I heave a sigh and feel dejection and despair. But what can I do? My mind does not become hard even for those who are devoid of love for me." Then together the two, pure intuitive perception, the businessman named Samadhi, and the very noble monarch, good thoughts, the king, arrived in the circular sacrifice area in the presence of the great wise master, the Muni. Observing the proper customs and congenialities for learning, they sat down and engaged in conversation with the Muni. The king said, "You who have united with infinite self, I wish to ask only one question of you, and please be pleased to speak on that. My reflections are without control and give much pain to my mind. I have great attachment to the kingdom and to every aspect of the status that has gone from me. But even with this knowledge in the manner of one who is ignorant, I still feel pain. Why is that, O great learned one? And here this humble man, cheated and deceived by his wife and children and employees, and cast out, even deserted by his own relations, he still maintains the greatest affection for them. Thus both of us are feeling pain. Even though we see the defects in our contemplations, nevertheless our minds are drawn into attachment and egotism. What is it, O exalted one, O Muni, that causes this ignorance even in the presence of our wisdom and understanding? He and I are as fools without the capacity of discrimination." The Muni said, "O great light of luminous splendor, all that lives has knowledge of objects perceived by the senses. But the objects of the senses are perceived differently by all beings. Some beings are unable to see in the day, while others are unable to see in night. Still others have the capacity to see equally well in the day and the night. It is true that humans have a capacity of understanding, but not only humans. This knowledge is common to all animals, whether beasts of the forest or birds of the air. All living beings possess this understanding just as human beings. Then just as in humans, the capacity of understanding exists in all animals, and this is a general principle that the understanding of the two is alike. Look at those birds over there. Though they have knowledge, Because of attachment, they are ignoring their own hunger and are busy putting food into the mouths of their children. But supreme among men, humans, are different, because they are desirous of obtaining reciprocal assistance from their children in their need. Can't you see that desire in their greed? People are hurled into the whirlpool of attachment and the pit of delusion by the great measurement of consciousness, Mahamaya, who is the cause of the circumstance of all objects in the creation and their relationships. For this there is no need to wonder. The consciousness of the universe, the Supreme Lord, is put into sleep of divine union by the great measurement, and therefore the world is deluded by her. She, this great Supreme Goddess, the great measurement of consciousness, Mahamaya, attracts the perceiving capacity of all sensible beings with such force as to thrust them into the ignorance of egotistic attachment. The universe is born from her, the perceivable world with all that moves and moves not. And it is she who, after satisfaction, bestows on humans the blessing of liberation. It is she who is the ultimate knowledge, the cause of the liberation of consciousness, the eternal existence. And she is the cause of the bondage of consciousness to objects and their relationships, the full and complete supreme over all sovereigns. The king said, "Revered one, who is this goddess, the great measurement of consciousness of who you speak? Tell, O wise one, of the actions by which she is known. What is the cause of this goddess? What is her intrinsic nature? What is her birth? All this I wish to hear from you, O most excellent among the knowers of the one self-existing being." The Rishi said, "She is eternal, and the gross world and all the individual phenomena in it are her visible forms. In many ways she is manifest. Hear of them from me. Notwithstanding that she is eternal and unborn, nevertheless, when divine ones perform actions for the attainment of this cause, she becomes manifest in the world. At the end of the period for manifestation, when the gross world was indistinguishable potentiality, the revered divine Lord, the universal consciousness, rested at the end of infinity in the sleep of divine union with Yoga Nidra. Then from the dirt of Vishnu's ear, this piercing capacity arose two terrible thoughts known as too much and too little. They were ready to slay the divine creative capacity, Lord Brahma, who was seated in the lotus blossom in the navel of Vishnu. The creative capacity, the ruler of beings. Seeing the approach of these two thoughts and the causer being indifferently asleep in divine union, then with one pointed attention, he began to praise divine union with his heart for the purpose of awaking the eyes of consciousness. Lord Vishnu, the revered one of brilliant light, extolled the ruler of the universe, creator of the perceivable world, cause of evolution and devolution. Goddess of sleep, the unequaled energy of consciousness. The creative capacity said, "You are the eternal essence of all, the consciousness. Aim, Hrim, Klim. You are the time of prayer. You are the bearer of light. You are the goddess above all beings born. The universe is sustained by you, and the perceivable world is created by you. You protect what you create, O divine goddess, and you destroy it in the end. As the creator, you are the form of creation, and as the form of circumstance, you are its maintenance." Then at the conclusion of the form of delusion of perceivable existence, You are the almighty measurement of being, Mahamaya, the great knowledge, the great measurement, the great intellect, the great recollection, the great ignorance too, and your ladyship, the great goddess and great source of strength. You are nature and the three qualities that you manifest, it all. The night of time, the great night, and the night of ignorance. You are prosperity, you are consciousness of all. You are humility, you are intellect, and the goal of knowledge. Modesty, increase. You are peace and patient forgiveness. You bear the sword of wisdom and the pike of concentration, the club of articulation, and the discus of revolving time as you present a frightful form. You bear the conch of vibrations and the bow of determination and other weapons as well. You are mild and gentle and the ultimate of attractiveness and incomparable beauty. Above and beyond that, even again superior, you are the supreme consciousness. Whatsoever exists in thought or perception, whether true or untrue, the energy of everything in all is you. Then what can be sung of your praise? If he who is the evolution, circumstance, and devolution of the perceivable world is subject to the sleep that you have caused him, Lord Vishnu, then what can be sung in your praise? You cause the maintaining capacity and the dissolving capacity in myself as well, to wear bodies. Hence, for this reason, and for this cause, who has sufficient ability to sing your praise? O divine goddess, you and your heavenly and bounteous manifestations have been extolled.